Thank you, Paul. Yes, evangelist, it's a big word. But I must say I am very passionate about the cloud. It's something I've followed and probably been part of for the last sort of 10 to 15 years. So a real pleasure to be able to share my thoughts and the thoughts of others on, where we see cloud today and the impact that it's having on a lot of businesses. So if that presentation... There we go, straight. So why is cloud becoming the new normal? I said to Mark, I kind of challenged him a bit because I think the statistic he put up didn't quite capture the velocity and the speed that things are actually moving in this world. The existing infrastructures, yes, I think 3% was the word you used, but the companies that are trialling it and adopting are quite rapid, and we'll talk through some of those customers today. We'll also talk about some of the way they're innovating and the reasons they're moving to the cloud, and then I'll finish off today just with some fun things that Amazon's doing around innovation, and then really working with Mark and the team how you can get started on this journey. But why is it becoming the new normal? It's really because from 2014 onwards, we saw a big shift. A lot of organisations, startups like Airbnb had started to use the cloud to gain competitive advantage across, say, traditional industries. And these industries started to see, hey, these guys are getting a lot of success from this. How can we start to gain traction as well? So we sort of saw from 2014 onwards where enterprises started to take advantage of cloud services, and that's why we've kind of started to term the phrase cloud is very quickly becoming the new normal within organisations. So judging by that, you can very rapidly see the adoption. We're very proud to call 1 million customers home on the platform now, but we don't put that up to brag. We put it up there to really talk through what we're seeing. That ecosystem that when people move to the cloud, there's a fair chance what you're trying to achieve with cloud or innovation yourself, there's someone else on the platform that's done that before, and you can share and take benefit of those types of learnings. One thing that's quite unique when you look at us, and I'll bring the platform up later, but 90 to 95% of the products that we release come from customer suggestions. So we have a consistent feedback loop from customers, whether they're an enterprise or a startup, telling us how we can improve or change that process or change that service, and then get it back out very, very quickly. And you as a customer, one of the millions sitting on there, are taking advantage of that every time. So if we start to talk about the types of customers, you talk about 190 customers now across the world and a global infrastructure. So one of the things that we spoke about earlier was what that global infrastructure starts to look like and what that means for the question came up on data sovereignty. So when you deploy within somewhere, within a country, for example, Sydney here, your data stays there. One thing with cloud, one of the misconceptions is that you still own that cloud, you still own that data and that content, and you maintain full control of that content. So when you move that in to somewhere like the Sydney region, it's your data. We don't look at it and we don't move that data around anywhere. And that's an example of what a Sydney region looks like. The availability zones are one of the big reasons another big organisations are moving up to the cloud. That concept of being able to architect things for availability. Over our time in the industry, we've all suffered things from downtime and issues with IT. Moving to the cloud is proving to companies to become a lot more reliable way to run their infrastructure. And we start to now look at the organisations that are doing that. On a common day, most of you would be touching or using software as a service applications which are sitting up on cloud. If you're looking at your LinkedIn, if you're streaming your music from Spotify, if you look at the great startups like the Airbnbs that you book, your hotels with when you travel, Airbnb sits up on a cloud platform. So continually these startups gravitated towards a cloud very, very quickly because it provided them a model that they could innovate on with very low capex. And what started to happen then, as I said, is these enterprise organisations then started to take advantage. And again, we're very proud to call a lot of the big enterprises of Australia customers on the AWS platform. One I'll talk about in a minute, Qantas, an incredible case study, but you look at the large finance organisations which are very rapidly moving. Suncorp was the first in 2012 where they committed that they're on a journey to move all in onto cloud because the competitive advantages that we saw. Commonwealth Bank, where it saved them millions of dollars in storage costs in 1 year by migrating up to the cloud. NAB, all their digital assets now sit up, on AWS. So it is rapidly evolving through the enterprise as well. So a very exciting time that we see at the moment in this space. So, sorry guys, this clicker is really killing us. The one I like to talk about is Qantas. Qantas, an Australian icon organisation. Now, there's one favourite story, actually there's two that I had. So Qantas, when they purchased the Airbus 380s, were told that they wouldn't be able to fly those planes from Sydney across to Dallas. You know, it doesn't work. The fuel, things like that. Qantas challenged that, and working with Amazon, we gathered the data, the flight patterns, weather patterns, load, fuel, etc., and we started to run an analytics proof of concepts to very quickly prove that to Airbus you could actually fly that 380 from Sydney to Dallas. And if you were to log on to the Qantas app today, you would see that air route has now been opened up. So if you start to talk about business advantage the cloud's providing, to do something like that beforehand would have taken a lot of infrastructure and a very expensive proof of concept to run, but they ran that up very quickly. The other one is the flight planning exercise. So when Qantas want to plan out a new flight, when they're flying from Sydney to Los Angeles, it takes a lot of data they've got to crunch. Weather patterns, again, people, passenger loads, lots of things that go in to crunch that data. Now, that used to take Qantas weeks to do something like that, and quite an expensive exercise. They, again, ran a proof of concept to see how quickly they could do that on the AWS platform, and that went from weeks down to hours. So fundamentally, working on the cloud, it played a big part in the Qantas transformation, where they're now starting to migrate all of the sort of Qantas.com assets up to AWS as well. So a really great local case study where cloud's had an impact on an Australian company. So one of the other things people get concerned about, and it came up very quickly today around security, but you can assure that the efforts and processes that organisations such as AWS put in place to ensure your data is safe. You can see here by the certifications we go through, everything from ISO 27001, HIPAA compliance for people that are running health data, ISO 9001 as well, PCI compliance if you need to store credit card information. We put all that effort into our platform, which means you don't have to focus on doing such a thing when you're very quickly, rapidly building applications that rely on those types of certifications. So another area you talk about innovation. Think of a marketplace. Think of anyone here that's either works in procurement or is signing off procurement of software. It can be a very, very painful thing, licensing agreements and going through a lot of that type of material. The concept now where you can actually purchase and procure software in a very, very fast fashion is something, again, which is innovating the way we look at IT. If you want to run, we were talking about earlier, a small ERP project for a small manufacturing company. In the past, you'd have to go out, sign off with a vendor, download software, put it on hardware, deploy it out just to trial it. Very, very expensive. Now, you and I sitting here after this event could very quickly jump on a marketplace, download that software, have it deployed, and this afternoon be running a proof of concept on whether that ERP solution is going to be suitable for your business. So again, it's taking out so much undifferentiated heavy lifting out from an organisation to focus on the main things that are important to them, their core business pieces. So now let's talk about really why the companies are moving so quickly. And this is the very important thing to understand, because initially people moved to the cloud going, hey, it's going to save us some money, fantastic, we'll reduce costs. When we speak to customers very quickly after that and ask what is the one benefit that they've seen from the cloud that stands out above all else, it is agility. Agility, the ability for their business to come up with a fantastic idea and have it quickly put into process through a proof of concept really changes the way that organisations start to think about innovation. In the past, it would take 18 weeks or however long to deploy some infrastructure to trial that idea. To be able to do that now within a matter of hours fundamentally changes the way these organisations start to think about innovation. The other thing, stop guessing capacity. All these things are just side effects of being in the cloud. Many of you, again, have probably signed off big CapEx projects for infrastructure. You get halfway through the project only to get told we actually didn't have enough so we need more. Or you get to the end of the project and said, oh, we didn't actually need all of that. So you've wasted a lot of money and sunken costs sitting on the floor of your data center that you're not using. The cloud fundamentally changes the way you start to do capacity planning around projects as well. And of course, going global in minutes, the idea that, again, we could sit here as a startup with a great idea and we want to move to the US, we deploy from Australia into the US infrastructure. We're there. All of a sudden we're moving, we've got customers over there. To be able to do that in the old world, really, really not possible. And that rapid pace of innovation is something that we can start to do as cloud providers on your behalf. Last year we added 722 services to the platform. That's quite staggering. Now, you as a customer sitting on that platform, you automatically get that. You choose to opt into that when you want it. You want a faster CPU, you opt into it. You want to take advantage of a new data warehouse to run some analytics because the business is trying to solve a problem. Bang, you can do that. That's there available in the console the moment we deploy it. And we are constantly iterating and innovating on your behalf underneath that platform, rather than you having to sit there and continually meet with different vendors that are doing all different things. That is how the cloud changes the way organisations are starting to do business. Removing the constraints. This is, a typical organisation today. We sit there, hey, I've got a great idea. Oh, it's not possible. Maybe next year. We're too busy rolling something out. Not going to happen. Put in the change request and we'll see if we can get to it. By the time you walk back from that department, the idea is gone in your head. It's dead. You've lost your enthusiasm. You go back to desk, and the next time you have a great idea, you don't go and bring it up because you know it's not going to come to fruition. So compared to what we do now, it's quite different. And that's because in the old world, we had these large upfront investments for capital to get projects off the ground. You were responsible for the upgrades and features that might have been needed to do that project. Compared to a world where now, all of that is sitting at your fingertips or at your team's fingertips when you want to drive those ideas through the business. So what drives agility? It's really about being able to provision very quickly, but it's being able to provision more than just servers and just infrastructure and just networks. It's being able to provision a petabyte scale data warehouse when you need it. It's your development teams being able to get access to developer tools when they need it, all at the click of their fingers. So, I challenge people to leave here today and think of a business problem they're trying to solve through data. It could be, more customer insights, a single view of a customer that you're trying to do. Think about how you can solve that, and then, challenge yourself to how quickly you can actually solve it on the cloud. Very, very important to start getting in that mindset, how you can do it, because when you combine the ability to provision very, very quickly with a fast array of services, that's when you start to drive agility through your business. So what does a platform look like? And my God, there is no way I'm going through every single one of these services and features, but this, guys, is what a cloud platform looks like. People talk, well, what does it mean? We've sat here and said, cloud's the future, we're moving to it. What actually is it? Well, it's a vast array of services, and Mark spoke about Lego blocks. In essence, you could talk about each one of those services being a Lego block that you start to pull together, working with a partner or working within your organisations to come up with new ideas, and then how you leverage these Lego blocks to build yourself an infrastructure that can help get those ideas out to your customers as soon as you possibly can. That's really what a cloud platform looks at. And people get confused with the term cloud around really what does it mean? Is it just a bigger data centre, et cetera, et cetera? A cloud is an entire platform that's got a very deep depth of services on top of the breadth that they have as well. So that is a cloud platform, guys. So let's talk about a mining company, Woodside, one of our customers. This is, again, a fantastic case study. And Sean Gregory's on stage at our summit a few weeks ago talking about how they're preventing disasters on the LPG plants by using a cloud platform. So they have 200,000 sensors that sit across their LPG platform. Staggering. You could imagine how much data that streams off. But they have an issue that within those LPG silos, they have a concept called foaming, and Sean describes it as what you do. It's like when you shake up a beer and the foam comes up. The problem with LPG, you can't see that foaming, and if that escapes, the plant can get shut down. So what they do now, they stream from those 200,000 sensors into the cloud and then run analytics across the stop to start to predict the patterns that start to point towards foaming occurring. So you talk about, a company like Woodside, that's just one of the projects they're doing to innovate and save them, obviously, from disasters is the big one, but preventative maintenance on their plants is the other big one they're continuing to drive. So a very successful project, and the way Sean described it, he said it's amazing. We used to talk about technology in years, and the cloud is now making that down to weeks. So these projects we used to plan years ahead, we're now running up these very, very quickly in weeks. So a very, very different way that they're starting to look at technology now that they are on a cloud platform. I don't know where I should be pointing this. So the other thing that's very important to understand is it all sounds great and it's a big platform. How do we do it? It's, we're used to getting locked into contracts to do these things. Cloud, again, the pricing models drive innovation with cloud. So the concept you can get up and pay as you go. We can spin something up for an hour. In essence, our contracts last for an hour. You can spin up as much as you want, as much as you need, and then turn it off after an hour. So the idea of failing fast is something we talk about a lot. So we come up with idea, we deploy it, it works fantastic, we invest more. If it doesn't, we turn it off and we fail. We encourage failure in so many of the way we do things and our customers as well. Just trial it. To increase innovation, you've really got to learn how to reduce the cost of failure. And that's another thing that the cloud platform brings to you as well. So very important to understand how those pricing models work when you move to the cloud. Okay, so the other thing we often get asked is, okay, where do I start? What does it look like? What is a great project to get going on? If I'm to leave here today and go to my team and say, hey, we want to get something up in AWS, run up a test and dev environment, very low risk. Run up something like that. Move your website out to the cloud, very low risk, and you'll get some big benefits for it. And then start to think about how could we deploy a mobile app, off a framework that's already built that we could use very, very quickly? Or again, a business problem that we could solve by finding some data that we have stored away somewhere but we've never looked at. How do we do that? They're the sort of projects we're seeing organisations kick off very, very quickly. And then that journey just naturally starts to flow. They'll start to migrate in more servers, more data centres, and then eventually these organisations, such as someone like Suncorp, push their way to start to move all into the cloud. So, and we're seeing that as a very, very common pattern at the moment. Again, because organisations will save money by doing that, but the agility that it's giving their organisations once they do. And I think a great example of this, again, is some of the ones in South Australia that are moving across to that now. So, the South Australian Fire Authority have really started to leverage cloud services based on some of the stuff their counterparts in the other states have been doing. The emergency fire apps, they all run up on AWS now because you could imagine during fire season, the scale that those applications need to reach, once people start to log on as fire season starts to heat up. And of course, a really great local one, an e-learning portal that came up from Bright Cookie. So they run their e-learning platform up at a small organisation in South Australia, but they've just moved up into Singapore. Now, when they moved up there, do you think they had to go and build data centres and things? Absolutely not. They went up and deployed in our Singapore region, and they were on stage with us at our Singapore summit a couple of weeks ago in front of thousands of people talking about this fantastic e-learning portal that they developed that they had running up on AWS. Now, things like that, these small organisations weren't able to do. I was looking, the other day, there's 64 startups just within the CBD of South Australia, 4 incubators that are running over here, user groups, from organisations like ours that are going off continuously. Very, very, very exciting stuff going on right here in South Australia, and I know Paul's just got up. So let's talk about GPT very quickly. No, we'll get through this, and this is one we talk about once a customer's gone all in, the cost savings. But people say, are my guys going to lose jobs? Does it mean, they'll be out of work? Absolutely not. If you look at the CIO of GPT Group, a big ASX listed company, Shamila talks about shifting the value that they're adding. 40% of the team's time freed up from infrastructure to focus on important projects for the business. So, all right, guys, in my last 30 seconds, I just wanted to hit on some innovation because at Amazon, yes, we're known as an organisation that's delivered packages and books, but you talk about disruption and the way we drive ourselves. And when we've got more time and we can come in and visit you as a business, we love to talk about the way we're helping businesses think this way, about disrupting themselves and innovating. So we went from a company where you could order lots of things from, and that's an example of one of the warehouses, and the innovation that we drove in there was amazing, where we use these little robotic guys now that lift up, and instead of people walking to shelves, the robots bring the shelves to us because it increased efficiency, and it means we can deliver packages in 2 hours now in some states instead of weeks. Really innovative ways that they think about things. The Kindle, now we were the largest online bookstore when we invented a Kindle. Imagine the guy that came in at that time and said, I've got this great idea where people won't have to buy books anymore. They can just download books to a Kindle. Now, what's the first thing we thought of? We embraced it because we said, wow, if we don't do that, someone else will be doing that very, very quickly. So we embraced challenging our own ideas. Amazon Fresh, over in the US now, you can be 11 o'clock at night and need bread for your kids' lunch. You can have that ordered and it'll be on your doorstep at 7 a.m. through Amazon Fresh. Very, innovative and different ways that we're doing delivery with organisations. Lockers where people can have their parcels delivered if they live in apartments. The Amazon Echo, which is probably the most amazing thing that we're seeing at the moment, but a device that sits in your house now that you talk about Internet of Things, voice controlled. I can order a size 11 pair of Aquilas, or 10 and a half, I think I am, and it will get delivered to my door within a day through voice control. You can talk to your shopping list. I need spaghetti bolognese. It will add up the ingredients, order them from Fresh, and have them delivered. So incredible technology that's coming through. This one I think I still don't get this one, but it's amazing. But these are the wireless buttons that sit in your house. So when you're out of laundry detergent, you don't write it on your shopping list. You just push the button and it gets delivered. Gatorade, it gets delivered. You program your favourite goods that you use a lot, you push that button and it gets delivered. Amazing, very, very different technology, but all the vendors are flocking to get these buttons within Amazon to be able to order things. And then, of course, the one we've all been seeing, drone delivery now, where goods are, we're pushing to get goods delivered by drones because, 30 minutes delivery is a target that we've set ourselves for a long time to achieve. And then you talk about something very, very different. What people don't know is, we have a huge online movie company as well, very, very similar to Netflix, who's one of our great customers as well. But Amazon Prime's one of them. So now we're producing all our own content. So Top Gear, when they left BBC, moved over to Amazon Studios, where we're now producing content. And last year we're lucky enough to win a Golden Globe Award as well. So that consistent disruption that we put on ourselves is amazing. And that's some of the stuff, when we talk to businesses and organisations, we share how we go through that. So on that note, guys, I can't thank you enough, but just really, these are the things you want to start thinking about. Engage Communet, start kicking off some ideas, get on the Activate program, speak to the teams. All of us are here to help you start to get to this incredible, innovative world that, we have before us at the moment. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.